Welcome back to the Whatnauts review show number 239, where every week we have a different story to talk about. It could be a movie, a TV show, an anime, manga, comic, all sorts of stuff. We read it, we watch it, we come back here, and we talk about it. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined by Melissa Wilkinson.
Hello.
Melissa, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm having a fine weekend. I've been going to my new local Alamo Draft House to see the extended versions of all of the Lord of the Rings movies.
That's cool.
So we finally got to Return of the King yesterday. I've completed the set.
Nice. That sounds fun. Sounds fun. We've I've had a good week just staying at home and playing video games and all sorts of stuff. There was a new video game that got announced and released that same day.
Wow.
It was it's out now. And it was really, really neat. Everything was synced on the beat, the way the character moves when he attacks, all of this stuff. It was neat. Hi-Fi Rush is what that game was. So
that name seems fitting.
Oh, yeah, indeed. But today we are here to talk about not video games, not Lord of the Rings, but The Fast and the Furious.
Yes.
Melissa, you and I are starting our end of the month coverage on the Fast and the Furious saga. The entire franchise is what we will be covering for the next couple months here at the end of the months. So this time we are talking about the first three Fast and the Furious movies. I have seen these three before. This is all I've seen of the Fast saga. I kind of stopped watching after the third one, which I saw in theaters. And I'll get to why I stopped in a bit, but just kind of cultural osmosis, I kept up with them and how crazy ridiculous they got after that. But I still just felt like I missed the boat on them. So I was just I kind of need to go back and check them out, especially with Fast 10 coming out this year. So I'm super excited about that. Melissa, how are you feeling about the Fast and the Furious?
I had never seen a one of them at all. I think maybe I'd been in the room when my dad had one on. I've seen the trailers plenty of times when I go to the theaters.
We
probably saw the
to
Hobbs
the
and Shaw
trailer. Fast 9 here on
we did?
The reactor. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yes,
ago.
You made me do that. You had to explain to me that Han was there and then he was dead. And they're like, justice for Han. And then Han comes back. So I finally have Han context. Was very happy to actually meet Han formally for the first time. But I've been curious about these. I think ever since the podcast How Did This Get Made, which is a bad movie podcast, started covering these, starting with the fifth one, they loved them. They're like, these are bad movies, big quotation marks. These are so much fun. And it seemed like people kind of from the midpoint on, maybe 5 on, started getting really into these. These are a great time. They're so over the top. It's like watching a big cartoon. It's like watching Hot Wheels crash together. They're fantastic. Go see them. So I'm I need to get on board this thing. It's been something we've been talking about doing for a while. We didn't know in what format to tackle it. We were originally going to start the year with The Good Place as our first ongoing monthly series. We shoved that out of the way. We're no, we want to fit in all the Fast and Furious movies before Fast 10. So 3 a month is how we're going to tackle this. Hobbs and Shaw optional. Optional.
Indeed. They just get more and more ridiculous as they go. It's interesting because my partner said that she hadn't seen them, except she had seen Hobbs and Shaw. That was the only Fast and the Furious related thing. And so we're sitting there watching these three movies, and I'm just thinking to myself, what must be going on in her mind as she's watching this little small grounded heist film that is the Fast and the Furious, the first one, and how do they get to the superhero antics that are in Hobbs and Shaw? It's ridiculous. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about these. I think it'll be a blast.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, synopses of these first three kind of movies here that we got. This first one starts with a cop, an undercover cop, who is trying to work his way on the inside of this crime family, this crime ring. I think family is the appropriate word for
he finds out it is a family.
Series.
People are stealing DVD players.
Mm-hmm.
Millions of dollars worth of DVD players.
Little 13-inch TVs.
God, with a VCR attached. So, like, these three cars are, like, zooming up and, like, overtaking these truckers and, like, stealing the stuff out of the back of their trucks. And the FBI is like, the truckers are going to turn to vigilante justice unless you, Brian, infiltrate the Los Angeles underground race circuit and find out who's doing this.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a kind of crime heist movie-ish, or like stop the heist movie, which is also an interesting twist on a heist movie, right? And the second one is much the same. It is kind of this it's the same main character. He is now no longer a cop after the events of the first one, where he let Dom go. We are kind of spoiling this, but we're not getting into some details. Hard to do that when you have to mention.
This movie is 22 years old, and there have been 9 very popular sequels since that.
But in the second one, he is now no longer a cop, but is still kind of dragged back in as he's moved to Miami. And there's some stuff happening there. There is another smuggler, drug lord person. I don't remember exactly what he was getting into, but he's also causing some havoc that the cops want to take down. They already have someone on the inside, and she's been there for about a year, but she stopped responding. So they need someone to go in and check on her and wrap this whole thing up. And so, yeah, they do another stop the heist kind of story thing. And then the third movie takes us all the way to Tokyo. Brand new characters. It's an unfamiliar setting, unfamiliar characters, and they start to switch up the formula a bit here. It still starts with a race. There's still a bunch of fancy cars, but they start to introduce some technique into it. It's not just, wow, cars go fast. There is some technique involved here. And it is instead of a crime like heist film, it's more of a yakuza story with this one, which is an interesting take on that. I feel like that's kind of about it for general plot synopsis of these three without spoiling too much. Do you have stuff that you want to add in on top of that?
I just want to say, as a general reaction to these three, I was really surprised by how much I liked them. I knew this franchise, this saga, went into ridiculous, like, cartoonish places, and it's not quite there yet. These first couple are more grounded, so I thought I might be a little bored from time to time. I'm not as much into what I call unhyphenated action films that don't have like a superhero or an alien or a James Bond or something. I'm not a car person. All of these I found really engaging and truly a lot of fun. Like there is something special about even these first three. There's something there. I look at these and I get it. I know we're going to go to far greater lengths in our next couple episodes on the Fast and Furious saga, but I look at these three and they work on me. They absolutely work.
Absolutely. These are a blast. They're so much fun. I haven't watched these in years, in decades. I think the second one I maybe saw some of on TV like most recently, but I hadn't seen the third one since I went to go see that in theaters, which is kind of wild. And it's interesting because these first three, that first one did well enough to spawn a second. The second one people really enjoyed. And then they switched the formula up so much on the third one that the immediate reaction was that the third one was bad. It was awful and people hated it. But as time went on, people were like, actually, that one was really good. Like that one is it's so much fun, and it worked.
This is what happened to the Halloween franchise, oddly enough. You've got Halloween. You've got Halloween 2, the immediate sequel, the further adventures of Michael Myers. And then for the third one, they're like, actually, we want to turn this into sort of an anthology series of films. We did 2 about Michael. The third one's going to be different. So Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, is in a completely different part of the country, completely different storyline, unrelated. And then everyone was so mad. Halloween 4 went straight back to Michael Myers.
Yeah. So these really are a good time. I had a blast rewatching these. I don't know if I have much else spoiler free to say. Go watch them. Go check them out. The first 2 I found on Peacock. And then the third one I found on HBO Max. So that's where you guys can check them out.
I think the 9th is also on HBO Max. I think, unfortunately, we have to hop around a bunch to different platforms to collect all of these. I know my dad likes these movies, and I thought he owned some of them. And I checked his DVD collection. He only owns The Fast and the Furious and Hobbs and Shaw. He literally owns the bookends. Everything in the middle is missing.
That's so funny. It was also really funny watching these with my partner because at the end of the second one, when it's like, hey, you might like these other options, right? It had more of the Fast and the Furious movies on there. And she saw the 6th one and she was like, oh man, they made 6 of the days. I was like, the 10th is about to be in theaters. She was like, oh my goodness.
It is wild to think that we are going to hop onto this franchise wholly and sincerely on movie 10, movie 11, if you count Hobbs and Shaw. The only other, it's like the MCU and like James Bond are the only other ones where there are 11 movies for you to hop on at the 11th.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, with that, I think we will take a quick break for some housekeeping. And when we get back, we will start discussing these films a little more in depth. So we will be right back. Here at the Whatnauts, we make multiple different shows, and a lot of hard work goes into making them, so we would love it if you check them all out. If you enjoy our shows, patreon.com/thewhatnauts is the best place to show your support. For just $1 a month, you can get early access to episodes, and at our $3 tier, a Patreon-exclusive podcast, The Pilots Club. You can even get a shout-out and thank you on most of our shows at the $5 tier. And if you're one of our patrons already, thank you so much. It means the world to us. You can find out more information on our website, thewhatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. When you type in The Whatnauts, all of our shows will pop up right there. Just don't forget to give us a nice rating and review if you like the shows. You can also find us on YouTube and Twitch for video versions of the shows, trailer reactions, and live streams. And lastly, we have merch. If you want to grab yourself a shirt or a hoodie or a mug or something else, head over to thewhatnauts.com/store to pick up some merch today. And we are back. Once again, a big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. We thank you a lot. It means a lot to us. This past month here on our Patreon exclusive podcast, The Pilots Club, we covered Bird Girl, the kind of sequel continuation of Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, which was a lot of fun to check out. This next month in February, Puchinsky is what we're going to be watching on that. It's going to be an interesting one. Melissa, you introduced this to me. You've mentioned it a few times.
Yes.
And we're finally going to check out this infamous pilot of Puchinsky.
It's a pop culture oddity I've been obsessed with for some time, even though I've never watched the whole thing. The failed pilot for a drama where a cop dies and is reincarnated as a dog. Not even a real dog, a puppet dog.
Yeah. Good stuff indeed. Let's see. The cool things that we've been up to here at the Whatnauts. Of course, last week here on the review show, we watched Swiss Army Man, which was written and directed by Daniels. Which is, if you don't know, the same creative team behind Everything Everywhere All at Once, the newly recently Oscar-nominated directors for that same movie. It was kind of serendipitous that we watched that one and they got nominated in the same week. So I had a blast with that one. It was good.
Yeah, good timing. And then on our most recent episode of the Captain's Log, you let me read you the list of all the Oscar nominees this year. I have become a big Oscars nerd. So we went through a lot of those. Everything except me going like real granular on to like sound mixing and things like that.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I knew the Oscar stuff was coming up, but I didn't know exactly how close it was.
March 12th.
Yeah, you've been following it on some podcasts. You've been watching a lot of the movies and stuff like that. So it was cool. It was fun to check all that stuff out. And of course, on the Reactor Core, we have been showing not only our reactions to The Last of Us as it comes out, but we also reached our 100th episode over on the Reactor Core, and that was a whole lot of fun. We ranked every single movie that we have ever covered on the Reactor Core, not to be confused with this show, but all the stuff that we have reacted to and done spoiler casts for on the Reactor Core. And that was a blast. Is Ignacio the world's biggest Scoob fan? Maybe. Am I the world's biggest Solo a Star Wars story fan? Maybe. Who knows?
Am I the only one trying to make any sort of defense for Eternals? Yes.
It was a blast. So please go check all that stuff out. But that is about it for housekeeping. So let's get into spoilers. Fast and the Furious. Man, this came out in 2001.
Long ago.
Yeah, which it is why they're stealing DVDs. DVDs were the hot new thing in 2001. DVDs with a VHS or DVD player built in. Incredible, super expensive. Fun fact, one of the cheapest DVD players you could get when DVD players like first hit the market was a PlayStation 2.
Wow.
Yeah, by themselves they were often they were often like $1,000 for a DVD player.
Now that you mention it, I remember the first DVD I ever saw. It was when my older brother bought a PS2, brought it over to our house to show us what DVD was. We went to Blockbuster. This is still when they had VHS and DVD in separate sections of the store. We rented X-Men, which came out just the year before. That was the first DVD I ever saw. We thought it was fascinating. We could like watch X-Men in French.
There you go.
Turn on subtitles. Turn off subtitles, menus, scene selection. It was all novel to us.
Good stuff. Yeah, like that. It seems so ridiculous now for them to open with this scene. They show what they're stealing, and it's these like dinky little TVs. They're not even flat screens. They're like big, huge, chunky monitors.
A screen wouldn't be flat for years. A screen wouldn't be flat until like the fourth movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could get them, but they were so expensive that it was unrealistic. Like even these screens were just like, whoa, it's portable. You can like put this in your office, right? On a desk. It still took up most of the desk, right? But
what a relic.
These movies just absolutely reek of the early 2000s.
Oh, yes.
It's great.
It is kind of nostalgic. I do like that they are trying to be like so hip that they have become these wonderful little time capsules.
It really is.
Just iconography of things you haven't seen in ages. Like Brian's like West Coast Chopper shirt or like Twinkie's Roca wear jacket. Like I haven't seen these logos since I was in middle school.
Yeah. Even like the kind of extras that they have in the movie too, and the wardrobe and all that stuff. Like especially in the second one, seeing some of the women hop out of the truck to put up the like road closed sign. Why are they there? They just don't look like they belong in that scene at all. And it's so funny.
So watching these movies, it took me back to before the early 2000s, to the 90s, when my dad would go to McDonald's, get me and my brother a Happy Meal, and the worker at the drive-thru said, okay, you want a girl's toy or a boy's toy? And the choice was always Barbie or Hot Wheels. And the Fast and the Furious franchise is a movie that says both. Both, please. Like, you think of this as a Hot Wheels-based movie, and it is. But it's drenched in fashion also. Is the fashion good? I don't believe so, but it's there.
Was at the time. That was the
if
hot
you just
stuff
want to look at like women's clothing, women's streetwear and party wear of the early 2000s, there are hundreds of reference points in these movies. Like it's fun to look through. Like I don't really want to wear any of those things. I don't want to wear like a mini skirt that is like narrower than most headbands I own. Like truly tiny, like 6-inch mini skirts, 6-inch heels, so many little crop tops and tube tops. It's fun to look at in like a really impractical, silly way, but I enjoy it. I enjoy that even though they are serving an eye candy function, there are always plenty of women around.
Yes.
Like you look at like the extras, it probably is like a very even gender divide in the extras. And that is something I can appreciate. There's lots of women around and it's racially very diverse. And like, I respect that as being consistent, like since the beginning tenets of Fast and Furious.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, what did you think of this one? I want to know your thoughts because you hadn't seen these before.
I was surprised at how much of what I know about Fast and Furious, the saga, is there in the first movie. You've got Brian, Dom, Mia, Letty, and then I think of the next movies when you get Tej, when you get Roman, the third movies when you get Han. Like, okay, I know all of those names. Like, I know those people. The first movie's got like the backyard barbecue. We say grace. You drink a Corona. It's not just that they have Coronas in the set dressing. Right. Yeah. They talk about family and he's like, you can have any beer you want as long as it's a Corona. Like Corona specifically named as being like one of the virtues of the Toretto family in the first one. It's there. The stuff I thought wouldn't have been crystallized until later on is there in the first one. So that was a pleasant surprise.
That's cool. Yeah.
In the first one, I liked how all of these were shot. Like, I think the second one takes it to this really speed racery level that I loved. But even in the first one, it's like very bright. very clean, very well lit, very colorful. Like they do lean into the fact that like cars are brightly colored. People might wear outfits that match their cars. The second one
Hot
leans
pink,
into this the
lime
most.
green,
Yeah,
orange.
and even when they're like doing the heist, they're stealing from like brightly colored shipping containers. Like they're leaning into the colors that exist naturally in this world. And like it's in like sun-drenched LA and Miami, and they're just pleasant to look at. And the racing scenes are exciting.
Absolutely, yeah. It's interesting because the first two films especially lean a lot more heavily into the CGI and the like they don't really it's weird to say they almost don't really believe in what the cars can actually do, and is just like, hey, we're Hollywood, we're gonna make this look cool. And yeah, it is a little more speed racer like when they hit the NOS button and they're like, and they start to go super fast, and like all the atmosphere around them is starting to do the like Star Wars streak effect thing, right? Like that's not how it looks in real life at all, and you can tell like this CGI just hasn't aged at all.
Kyle,
it has aged.
It has aged, but not in a way that bothers me. I have found that I am weirdly nostalgic for like rubbery early 2000s CGI. Like if I see a real rubbery looking guy, like the rubber Neos and like the second Matrix, I loved it. It made me feel so warm.
Yeah, it's good. It's still fun though. This first movie in particular really oddly reminds me of Point Break.
Yes,
it's that same kind of style movie, like undercover cop who's kind of cool, getting into some like extreme sport to stop some crime, and I think of that particular genre of that ilk. I think this first one succeeds. Like it's a decent film. It's like that. There's like the only bad things I can say is that the writing is cheesy. Some of the action CGI stuff is cheesy. Like there, but it is like the nostalgic, at least for us, like is the nostalgic type of cheesy that is just like, man, this is stupid and fun. I love this.
I think from the first one on, like this is a franchise that knows exactly what it is. It really does not take itself too seriously, and that is its to its benefit. Like people come to this for the cheese. This is a dairy farm of a franchise.
That's the thing. When this came out, though, it was taking itself seriously. Like
in the first one,
even in the second one, the third one, I think, also being more of a Yakuza film, it is serious, but I do think they also start to put in a few like jokier moments in that. But then, it really isn't until like the fifth movie or so that they start to realize that like, hey, people are making fun of these movies in a way that we didn't anticipate, and they're having fun with them in a way, and they start to lean into that, but they do it successfully. Like there's a lot of movies who see that happen. Like a more recent example would be Morbius, right? Everyone dunked on that movie. They memed it to hell. And the execs, the studio thought it was because it became a cult hit. People really like this. And they put it back out in theaters a second time. And almost no one went to go see it because everyone actually hated that one and was just like, it's not good. We don't want to see this. But with the Fast and the Furious, it is almost the opposite, where like, they're making fun of it, but it was also fun to watch. And man, like they actually have good action scenes and they get intense, and like there are some emotional stakes in there. And so yeah, they start to lean into it in ways that's like in this second one. It's like, well, what big stunt can we do with the car? Let's jump a car onto a boat, Dukes of Hazzard style, right?
It's a good reference point. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was watching that with my roommate, who has also never seen any of these, and she's flipping out like, oh my god, they jumped a car onto a boat. I'm like, you don't
It's
even
like you're
know.
just getting started.
They go to space in the last one, I think. Like, buckle
going to
in,
space,
get prepared. When she watched the opening scene of the second movie with me, and she sees Brian zooming around in his blue and silver car, and she says, "This looks like an ad for the Gillette Fusion."
Yes. Real men use Gillette Fusion.
The chosen razor of underground racers everywhere.
Be part of the family. Choose Gillette. Yeah, it's so much fun. So in this, yeah, he's trying to figure out who exactly is doing these heists, and they're wondering if it's a couple different crime families here. There's Dom and his family. There are I don't remember if they were Japanese. I think they were Japanese. And then you have the like Hispanic, I believe Mexican. I don't know exactly. Since they're out in LA, I would kind of assume they're Mexican, but yeah, like there's a couple oddly like, okay, it's one of these races of people, which is maybe one of the most odd things to say about the film here. They do kind of divide it up like that.
There are people who are friends with each other. Like they are friends with, I believe, Hector, who is like the point person for that Hispanic group of people. But yeah, it is like, everybody's sort of got like very racially divided cliques. Not divided in that they're against each other. I'll say that much. Like they just sort of form their own little pockets, and sometimes they're friends.
Purposes of the film.
Yeah, and sometimes they're rivals for like racing based reasons, but not race based reasons.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. I wrote down one of the lines that Hector says. I think this is after Brian has come on the scene and won some races and respect of some of the people around him. And Hector and all of his crew pull up to the shop that Brian works at. And he's like, we made a list. We want 3 of each.
Yes.
Right. When they pull up right to the store, like front row parking. They hop out and Hector says, now that's valet parking.
It is not.
They parked their own cars. It's such a stupid
not,
line.
sir.
I'm just like, it's not valet parking? What are you talking about? Have you never had valet parking before? Maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, I noticed that and was just like, oh my God, this is so dumb. But yeah, it is this moment that he starts to think like maybe it's Hector and his crew that is doing these
3 cars
heists. Yeah.
That are known to do the heisting. So he's like, if he's asking for parts in triplicate, maybe it's him.
Yeah. And he's pretty convinced it's not Dom. Dom tends to keep to himself. He's quiet, but he's also very, very like put together and on top of his stuff. He has this mindset that these heists are loose and like ill prepared, if that makes sense. It's like these are reckless. Like Dom is someone who takes care of his family. Like he wouldn't put his family in this kind of danger to do all of that stuff. And so yeah, he's being like, it's probably not Dom. But then he starts to gain Dom's trust here. And by the end of it, finds out that no, it actually is Dom and his family. They are stealing their stuff and smuggling it and reselling it and all sorts of stuff. But by this time, Brian has also kind of been like, I kind of like these people. They're kind of cool. I like they're good people. Like they're not doing like it's circumstance that they're doing this. They're not doing it out of like just because or stuff like that. Like they have some issues that they're trying to deal with, some challenges that they're trying to overcome, and this seems like their only way to do that. Do you have thoughts on the big reveal that Dom actually is? Not that it's that big of a reveal.
No, like you can kind of see it coming. Like you said, it's the exact Point Break formula.
Yep, exactly. And the other thing that I thought was kind of interesting and reckless in the scene when Brian is catching up to Dom as they are enacting this heist now in broad daylight because they've gotten that desperate. There's the one dude, I forget his name. He's the one that's stuck on the truck that his arm gets caught in the thing there. When he's on the front, or I think it's when Brian eventually jumps on, the trucker himself has taken to vigilante justice and brought a shotgun with him, and twice he shoots out the front window at his own engine to do that. And it's just like, oh my god, dude, what are you doing? You're shooting your own engine like this, and it's a shotgun. Like this will rip like your engine apart. Like this is not good. What are you doing here? And it's just like that is, in my mind, one of the more intense moments, that it's not just vigilante justice that this guy is shooting back at them, but he's enacting it poorly and recklessly and wildly. That is just like, this guy has no care for himself, which is not good for anyone. But yeah, man, the like last 30 minutes of this film, this first one, intense. Like the heat ramps up. It's good. It's such a fun time. I like it a lot. I don't have much else to say on the first one. Do you have anything else you want to?
No, let's go to the second one. Let's go to Too Fast, Too Furious. I actually had a lot of fun with this. It's the most colorful, like the most cartoonish of all of them. Then this I do like the cold opening of just this night underground race that isn't really plot significant. It's not related to any crime or anything. It's just what the local Miami racing community does. And everybody's like so Power Rangers-y, color-coded with their car. You've got like a red one and an orange one and a pink one. I like the pink girl and her like all-girl team of like pit crew. Suki, she was nice. I like that she was continually around, just like as part of the crew in the rest of that movie. I like when she's designing new stuff for her car. The second movie does open up what you can do with the cars a little bit more, because in the first one, it's literally about the speed, just who can drive the fastest. And the second one expands on it a little bit more with like the jumps that they have to do. Then the third one, they get even more specific and technical with making it drift based. I like that. I like that we are going into more and different types of driving. In the second one, we spend more time with other factors of car culture, like how she's always drawing and designing like new ways for the cars to look. Like you see all these beautiful painted cars, and you get the scene of her working on something in her sketchbook. Like you see a little bit of the work that goes into all the glamour of these cars. But this opening scene where everybody is like color coded and they've got speed lines the same color as their car, and they're dressed like their car, and their friends are dressed like their car.
It's so good.
Perfect. Like, I love what a cartoon it is. I think it really owns it perfectly. I don't know if people like the second one, but I had a lot of fun with it just because it does feel so bright and vivid, and not even in the cars. Like, just looking at any shot in this movie, like they're in Florida, they're in Miami, and it's like, I've never seen foliage that green, I've never seen a sky that blue. I was truly astounded by the visual clarity of Too Fast, Too Furious. Big, big props to director John Singleton, the late John Singleton. Excellent effort.
From what I remember, the second one was very, very well received. Like, if I'm not mistaken, I think people enjoy this one better than the first one. And yeah, it's interesting to see because they do ramp up some of the stakes, right? There is that jump in that first race. They start to introduce a little bit more like American muscle style cars, even though they don't really go into the differences between the car or why one might be preferred in certain circumstances, all of that stuff. But they do all of that stuff. But yeah, it is still the same formula as the first one. It is still that Point Break formula, which who knows if there was something else beyond that of similar, like undercover cop goes into extreme sport to figure out something besides that. But it is, I wrote down a note that this one also feels more James Bond influenced in certain aspects. It like the villain is more Bond like in that he has his own complex, right? He has his like villain layer kind of. He has his Bond girl right next to him the whole time. And when they go to his mansion and they're showing all of the like security like monitors and stuff, it feels like that GoldenEye era James Bond level like CGI on the screen. Like it has that odd influence in there. You mentioned Power Rangers, the Super Sentai stuff of everything is color coded, and even the Speed Racer stuff is still in that with the like how fast they go, which is also an interesting thing to note. I've mentioned to you a few times now on the Captain's Log that I'm starting to get into Formula One and watching that. It's interesting to see how fast they go in these movies compared to how fast they go in Formula One. Because they're topping out at like 140 in these first two films. And F1, those racers go over 200 miles an hour.
Wow.
And so it's just so interesting to see them do that like Speed Racer style, like and like everything is streaking by them. It's like, oh, they're only going 120.
But the high is more intense.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, I think I like the second one better too, just because it's still the same formula, but there are small changes, right? Brian is no longer a cop, but he gets roped back in. He then recruits someone else, right? So there is this like 2-man team.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, the heist that is or the antics, the action, like last half, the finale is not Brian against the family until the end, right? When he lets Dom go. But there is, oddly enough, more of a sense of family with Taj and Suki and all of the other racers there, especially in that one scene when just all of the cars come out and it's this like big Where's Waldo scene. Good
in the second movie in particular. There's such a huge scale of just the number of people and the number of cars that are around for any given scene, and you've got these like high up shots of just everybody maneuvering around each other. It feels like a musical. Like, it's the sort of cinematography and scale and bright colors and strong movements of a musical, just with no singing and dancing, just cars.
Right. Yeah. Just the roar of an engine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's an interesting one for sure. Something else that I wanted to make note of that I don't really have much else to say on other than I just didn't necessarily understand it. At the start of Too Fast, Too Furious, when Brian shows up in his, I believe, 72 Nissan Skyline, that silver and blue car
The
that
Gillette
he has.
Fusion.
Right, yeah. He's on the wrong side of the car. Did you notice that?
I did see that he is driving like a European style car, and I was expecting a line about like, oh, I've been getting into cars from this area, and he doesn't. So I don't know.
Exactly. Like I was expecting some kind of line to reference that. Maybe there was in some deleted scene. Who knows? It could just be that it's an import, right? Like to get like the original model or this certain type, the one that is good for racing is the one where it's not. I don't know if that's a technical thing, if that was a mistake somehow, or what. I don't know. I'm just not into cars like that, so I don't know.
I also couldn't make a lot of. I would have liked a line explaining it, but I did appreciate seeing that like cars come from all over the world. Cars are so important to like so many different like cultures and countries, and I do like that is something the Fast and Furious franchise shows. Like I know in the future movies, it's like real globe trotting and multicultural, and they're trying to bring in like movie stars from other countries. Like that's one of the reasons why these movies play so big internationally is because they do they go to those locations, they bring in those stars. But I think like cars are everywhere. You know, like anybody in any country could be like just as into cars as anybody else is.
Sure, yeah.
Like it's not anything that like America really is like an ownership of. You can go anywhere. We all like cars are the sort of like universal.
We don't is the thing. Like a lot of cars are like Japanese made or European made, and then we have Ford F-150.
There's so many. Everybody's got something to say about a car. Like they bring us all together. I do like that this is a franchise that shows you cars are universal. We all love them. Everybody gets along with car.
Indeed.
I wanted to ask you, as somebody who doesn't drive, has watching these movies made you more interested in learning to drive? I don't want you getting into speed racing. I don't want you to do what they do, but do you just want to like drive yourself to the store?
So
drive yourself to the movie theater to see Fast 10.
It's been long talked about on many podcasts that we do here at the Whatnauts that, yes, I do not have a license. I do not have a car. I have owned a car in the past. And it was supposed to be incentive for me to get my license. I owned a 79 Dodge Aspen. It was red with 2 black racing stripes down the middle. This was the American Muscle. Like, this was one of those cars that, like, the year after, it was more of like a hatchback style design. But the one that I had was the, like, this is like the American Muscle car. It looks cool. And it had the interiors of a 96 Mustang. It had a racing steering wheel. It had a slap shifter for racing. It had aftermarket like speakers in the car. It had racing tires and rims on it. I bought it for a steal. I got it for like $2,000.
All of your Rita's Italian ice money. My
first job, every single check just went straight back to my parents to buy this car. Fast forward to me in college. I took it with me, and eventually it got towed. It was in the impound lot for a few months without me knowing, because I had supposedly found a spot that was free parking year round, but there was an event and they towed it, and like we're trying to get in contact with like an old phone number of like just did not have the right info. And so I ended up having to like sell the car to junk it. I got $500,
Oh.
this sweet looking muscle car.
Oh.
And no, I'm not into cars. I don't really have the need to drive around all that much. Would it be nice? Sure. Do I see how expensive they are? And am I glad that I'm not paying off all of that stuff? Yes, absolutely. That has helped a lot. That I've just kind of been able to make it work without that. So no, not really.
Okay. Darn, just wondering, just curious if after being immersed in car culture for a while, if you're like, not maybe you don't want to go back to a muscle car, but you're like, I could really go for a Kia
Sportage. Go back for a muscle car. As much as I like them, no. My dream car is more like what you see in Tokyo Drift at the end, where it looks like a muscle car. But
your dream car is the Hulk car.
Where it looks like a muscle car, but they put the interiors of like a Japanese car in there. I think that would be sweet. So it's not as guzzling and just big, expensive thing there. But I wanted to go back to my favorite line of Too Fast, Too Furious, because that award goes to Suki at the start of the race when she makes that jump and exclaims, "Slap that ass." That's it. No reason for doing that. There's no ass depicted. She just exclaims, "Slap that ass."
Slap a metaphorical ass, the ass of life.
Right.
Slap the ass of life. She encourages all of us.
Exactly.
My favorite line in Too Fast, Too Furious is when it's when Brian and Roman go to meet with the bad guy, and he's got this like fancy silver cigar cutter for his big cigars, and then Roman pockets it, and then at the end of this meeting, he like asks for it back, and Roman like very sincerely, very sheepishly is like, "Dude, I thought you would have had like 12 of those." I didn't think you'd miss it.
Which he probably does, but it's still like it's the principle, right? But yeah, it's so funny to hear Suki say "slap that ass" for no apparent reason, which is also interesting to think about, right? When we laughed at the DVDs and stuff being stolen in the first one, saying something like "slap that ass" back in like 2003, 2004. Whoa, scandalous. That's sexy. That's hot. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Right? This was like back before anyone had a sexy Tumblr nude blog, all that good stuff back in the day, right? So spanking was, whoa, you're into some stuff.
That's like a real Spencer's Gifts kind of statement.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I had to shout out that because it's just it's that like, no, that's valet parking. Slap that ass, right? You have two great lines that just make no sense in the first two. The last couple things I want to say that are real quick here on this second one. I felt like the second movie should have been longer. I don't know why. I felt like I maybe could have spent more time with Brian and Roman, like undercover, like in this guy's employ, like gaining his trust and figuring out his habits, all of that stuff. It just really seems rushed that they are brought in to do this job. They're introduced to the guy and then they do the job. Like it feels like there should have been more like, I need to test you more than what I did here. Just like go to that impound lot and get the keys of my Ferrari and get me, what was it? My cigar that was in the glove compartment.
He doesn't tell them what it is. Like the test is, sneak into this impound lot, get inside the Ferrari, retrieve this envelope. And then later he reveals it's just a cigar.
my partner can hear me talking about all of this stuff and texted me the nearly uncontrollable urge to also start yelling, "Slap that ass!" It's great, but yeah, like I felt like 20 more minutes that might be too much, but even just like give me a couple more scenes of them like in the employ of this guy trying to prove that they are trustworthy, getting to know and explore that compound a bit more. I think would have been neat. But I think the movie is tightly cut. Like I don't feel like it drags on. It's still only like an hour and 40 at the most.
Yeah.
So it gets in and it gets out. So I appreciate that it doesn't overstay its welcome there, but I feel like it could have been slightly longer and I would have been okay with it.
Yeah, it's a nice visual vacation. It's nice to spend time in the vibrant, colorful Miami.
Exactly.
And this is something I loved about the third movie, Going Ahead to Tokyo Drift. We get to Tokyo by like minute 12. Like we are really in Tokyo. It is a very nice travelogue of a movie. You get to see like downtown. You get to see the countryside with the mountains. You get to see like the busy city streets and the tiny little houses. Like you go to a lot of different visual locales in Tokyo Drift, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah. We'll get back to that in just a sec. The very, very, very last thing. You said the first one, or you said the start of the second one reminded your roommate of a Gillette ad, like Gillette for men, right?
Yeah.
My partner described this second one as Bring It On for men. Like same style of movie and drama that is happening in here, but for men.
Yes.
So there you go. That's all I have to say on Too
Good
Fast, Too Furious. Yeah. So Tokyo Drift. Let's start talking about this one some more. Yeah, it's about 12 minutes in that we get to Tokyo. This starts
quickly. I didn't exactly timestamp it, but very quickly.
I don't know if they say exactly where the movie starts out in, but it seems to be some like southern state. I'd say maybe like Alabama or Louisiana or something like that, but I don't know.
Our main character, whose name I forget, I kept calling him Southern Brian. What? What is it? Sean?
Sean, yeah.
Sean, okay. So Sean, he's from Alabama, but he mentions that he keeps getting into street races everywhere he goes. They've had to move around a lot, so I don't know. There's someplace sunny in the third one at the beginning. They're not there for very long.
But this is why I think people started to not like this third one immediately, is that this movie starts to subvert the formula of the first two, right? We have that race at the start, like all of them do, but the race goes badly. And I guess he wins, but he loses at the same time, right? His car is totaled, he's bloodied, and then they have that like jokey moment where he like he's just all bloodied up, his mouth is all bloody, and he smiles at the one girl and just like he has that just that like the dumb look on his face. And then then you go to Tokyo, and then they have another race, and he loses that one. Like they do the like the switcheroo, the bait and switch, and then he loses that one. And then it's not it's no longer this like propaganda film of like we need to stop these criminals from doing all this stuff, but is now more of a yakuza film, and is slower in that sense. If I would say, like, you spend, I think, just as much time, if not more so, getting to know Han and Twinkie
Mhm.
and mostly them. There's like the unnamed crew members in this one, but I feel like it slows down to spend time with. And then I forget the girl's name
Is it
too.
like
Neela.
Nyla or Neela or something?
It's Neela, yeah. But like, I feel like you spend more time with them, and then the reveal that no, actually Han is stealing from them kind of comes pretty abruptly. But by that time, it's just like, okay, here we go. Here is the stakes of the film. It's just like, that's what's happening here. Sean now has to navigate this like treacherous situation of these warring. I was going to say clans, but that's not the right word. Like you have the yakuza against Han and whatever he's doing. It's kind of unclear besides skimming off the top.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. I think I end up liking the plot of this third one a lot more, even though there's also things like I don't like Neela at all. I don't care about her in the slightest.
I don't know if there's anything really to dislike about her, but I don't know if I ever felt particularly charmed at any point either.
Yeah. The movie also continues to do its rapper of the month is included in the movie, right?
I will say though, I really liked R&B. Bow Wow's performance. I think he did a good job.
This is it. It's really funny because this is right around the time that he if I'm not mistaken, close to the time where he stopped going by Lil Bow Wow.
Oh yeah,
and was like, no, I'm just Bow Wow. Like I'm an adult now. I'm no longer the kid that likes basketball and likes to dribble up and down the court. Right. He is trying to take himself more seriously, and that is the thing. Like I don't think his performance is necessarily bad. But again, it was one of those things back in the day. It was like Lil Bow Wow trying to take himself seriously. What is happening? Like, no one likes this. What is going on? Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's just interesting to see or to know that was the zeitgeist of this, that people didn't like this one. And that's why I stopped watching these movies, is that the first one was solid enough. That second one was really cool. And then they switched it up so much on the third one that it was just so much of a shock that I was like, I don't like this. I'm done. But now looking back, I'm like, I think that one's actually my favorite. Like that one's kind of like, I like that one a lot. Yeah, it's so good.
I had a pretty good time with all of these. I think maybe for the cartoon factor, I might enjoy the second one the most, but the third one, I think it does a lot with starting over with a completely new cast. I do like that our main character, Sean, Sean he's a relatively nice guy. He really just loves to race. He's like, there's no really like malicious intent he has. He's like, I just want to race. That's all I want to do. Like, I crave it. I am addicted to the race.
Yeah.
He even to things where like his dad's, you would expect a movie where like the dad was maybe more of a hard ass or something, but his dad's relatively like understanding. Like, look, this is your last chance. Please just follow the rules. I live in this tiny little Japanese house. You have the bedroom. I sleep on the couch in the living room. Like, I'm really turning my life upside down, trying to give you a better life here. And I don't know, like, the third one works well enough at like getting you to meet these new people. Han, I get Han now. I really awesome. Liked him. I really enjoyed his presence.
Han is so cool. Yeah. Yeah, enjoy one of the other things that I enjoy about this film. I think this one, not only did I say you spend more time with some of these main characters, but the movie also has these moments of calm that I really appreciate. Like the
Yes.
first two seem to always have the sound of an engine going at all times, and it is just this constant, nonstop go, 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 go. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, but that's what I appreciated about this third one is that you have that moment where Sean and Han are just looking out over this city, and it's quiet, right? Or even at the end in the chase scene when they get to it's what the Shibuya crossing, is that it? What's the big? That's right, in Tokyo, right?
Sounds familiar. Yeah,
it's the big intersection that's in all of those movies there. When they drift in that, and it does the like slow motion, like heart, like stopping, like silence as they go through all of that. It's just like, that's so cool. Like, this scene is awesome. But it's because of that contrast of this like roaring engine, the danger, and then it calm. But it's still intense, but it's silent. It's calm, and it's just like, this is cool. I like this.
I think the third movie's got a lot of really good contrast to the other two movies. I think it shakes it up in some really valuable ways. Like, I like that the driving is becoming more dexterous and skillful than just who is the fastest. Can you make a big jump? Like the fact that with the first fight in that like housing community that's still being built, which is a pretty exciting fight. I like that as the backdrop.
Sure.
You see that Sean is very good at what he does, and he mentions like being in races and like winning races ever since he was like 16 years old, since he got his license. And then to put him in this scenario where he fails so badly at that first drift race, he wrecks that car. It's not just like, oh, the other guy beat me by a couple seconds. It's like, no, that was a mortifying. Everybody was embarrassed to watch you lose the race that badly. And you see him time after time put the work into, all right, this is an entirely new skill, an entirely new facet of driving that I've never practiced before, that I need to put the time into practicing. And you see him do that. You really see him practice over and over again to the point where him winning at the end, like, it earns that turnaround. I like the movie starts him real low and puts the work into leaving him on a high by the end of the movie. I like that. I like like you mentioned, like the more quiet moments. I don't want to say Zen specifically. This is a movie set in East Asia, but you might think of it that way.
But even like the scene with Nayla when she's giving her backstory and all of the cars
I did kind of like that.
Mountain.
Yeah.
That's a great scene.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Again,
it's so cool.
The ballet of the cars is really beautiful to watch. And this, when they're racing through the intersection, that's the first time that many pedestrians have been in that much danger. Like, that is truly nerve-wracking. All these other races have been in these secluded areas where it's like everybody who's around knows that a race is happening. They are car racing hangers on. Like, they know what the deal is. They know to stay away. That is truly like innocent pedestrians who have no idea what's going on. Like, you were very fearful during that scene.
Absolutely.
I also like when Sean is like, Han, why do you race? Like, what do you get out of it? It doesn't seem like you like the racing. Why do you drift? And Han just does all those donuts around those girls.
You said pussy. That's why.
You get it.
So funny.
Yeah. Like, I'm not a car girl, but I do like seeing this look, even as fleeting as it has been so far in these first three films, the look in the lives of a woman who loves cars and that she herself builds or races them, or that she just likes to be around them, that these sort of like racer groupies. Like, it's
sure.
a type of lifestyle I don't really
Not even the
understand. I can't.
Groupies though, because they're like Suki can race. She knows how to design.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Like
cars.
everybody.
Those other girls in that one racing car, I'm sure they knew how to race it. Like
exactly. Like they're just everybody from like the people who do the racing to the people who are just fans of the racing, who want to be around the racing.
Yeah.
You get to see all these different ways in which these women love cars and like find cars impressive and want to fit it into their lives. Like it kind of made me wish I wish I knew slightly more about cars. Like I don't like still every time something happens with my car and I take it to the shop and the shop calls me and tells me this happened, I have to call my dad and make him translate what they just told me.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I can't get it through my head, but I wish I could. I really admire these women. Everybody in this movie, from the people who do it to the people who just like wear a flashy outfit and hang around when other people do it. Incredible. I wish I knew. Wish I could do that.
Good stuff. Something else that I really, really like about this film, I think this is the first one. Well, again, I haven't seen the ones after this, so I don't know exactly, but from what I understand about the movies that come after this, even though, yes, the cars stunts get more and more ridiculous, I feel like they become more and more realistic in a way. Like I know they're still using CGI and Hollywood magic and all that good stuff, but because this one introduces technique, right? They use a lot less CGI. It's still in there, but to see these cars actually drifting, to have these stunt drivers out there doing this stuff, like actually, it's just like, this is so cool. And I know they're not actually gonna like launch a car into space for real for this movie, right? But the way that they have, like the way that CGI nowadays is or can be so realistic, like it makes some of these stunts seem plausible in a weird way, right?
It's kind of like the it's like the way Mission Impossible has gone, where everything is over the top, but you know it is all done as practically as possible, and there's like a real technical like stunt and filming challenge to every preposterous thing they do, like climbing up the side of the Burj Khalifa.
Right? Yeah. I like that a lot. That's something else that I enjoyed about this movie. The last things I want to say is that there is an Easter egg in here to Initial D, which I like a lot. Which that's the thing. I'm a big fan of Initial D. It's one of my favorite animes. But I hadn't watched this movie since it came out in theaters, so I didn't know if there was any Easter eggs in there. But then looking back on it as I was watching it now, I was like, I bet you there is. Like, just how, like, think about how anime these movies are, how cartoonish they are. They go to Tokyo. Why wouldn't there be an Initial D Easter egg in there? And there absolutely is. Han is the one that mentions it. He's like, hey, I want that 86 Toyota that you have. The 86 Toyota is the Torino. That is the main car of Initial D. So I was like, I bet you that's the Easter egg.
Nice.
That's it. So at that, I was just like, haha, I knew it. It's there. Which is good fun. But that's kind of about it. I mean, Han is neat. He exploded into big flames. It was sad that he died. What else can we mention? Yeah, the Hulk car. What did you think
Incredible.
of the Hulk car?
I love it.
So dumb too, as they have that like super fancy like turnstile.
And you see all these
valet.
fancy cars, and Twinkie keeps shaking his head like, no, not that one, not that one. Nice try. That's my boy. This big, like the punches, like the fact that there's these like embossed fist marks on the sides of the car. There's a huge Hulk face painted on the front of it.
On the front.
There's like Hulk action figures on the dashboard. I like it because this feels like something somebody would do. Somebody would make a fandom car like that. And I was kind of disappointed that it didn't get to actually be an action car, but I imagine because it's maybe a more technical car build just with like the cosmetics of it, that it was difficult to have multiple copies of it for stunts. But I liked that it was there. Like that again felt like a real car somebody would make. I like that's and I like that he was adjacent to the racing world, but like he was more about having a really cosmetically cool ride to just chill out in. Again, different facets of like how people interact with and admire cars. I like that a lot. I like that this wasn't an absolute like how crazy is this foreign country movie. Like there's moments like that, like when he rushes into school. I like that he's wearing like, is it like the gakuran, the like traditional Japanese like school uniform with the real high buttoned like black Nehru collar jacket. I like to see him in that. Because it's something I've seen in so many anime, but I haven't gotten to see in live action in that many situations. Yeah. So nice. And like the scene where he has to wear the slippers, I think is less about, I have to wear slippers at school. I have to take off my shoes. It's less that and more like, oh, I'm embarrassed. Like, I don't speak Japanese that well. I didn't know I was coming here. I just got here. The teacher's yelling at me. She'd yell it like 5 times before I understood what she was saying. Like, it's sort of more like Sean's individual embarrassment and less like, totally crazy what they do in Japan. And I like when he goes through the school lunch line, just like really impressive spreads of food. Like, it's not food I as a Western audience member recognize, but I can tell like, oh, that's a bunch of like individually prepared like fresh dishes. And whatever it is Sean gets, he picks it up, he puts it in his mouth, and then he nods like, well, it's pretty good. Whereas I feel like in another movie, he would have made a gross face or something.
Right, yeah. Spit it
I
back
could tell
out.
that this was a movie
cheeseburger? I need McDonald's.
Exactly. But you do see a McDonald's. Like, you see Christmas trees at the beginning of the movie, which they don't mention it being at Christmas time. It's not plot relevant. But I like that there's the shots of all the Christmas trees and then the shot of the KFC, because that is Japanese Christmas food. Like, this is a movie that did seem to like know and respect Japanese culture. I really liked that about it. It seemed very sincere in like getting the most out of the location that it put these characters in.
For sure.
And I really did enjoy Justin Lin's directing. I watched this movie and you can tell from even just that opening scene, that montage of Sean at high school. Like, there's a real style to this. It's very well crafted, very sincere, and I can tell why he became the main director for the next several films in this franchise.
Yeah. Last but not least, the not end credits scene, but the last scene in the movie, Dom showing up at the end here. That was I remember that in theaters. That was maybe one of the redeeming factors of the movie back in the day, of just like, the Dom is here? What does this mean? There's gonna be a fourth one? Oh my god, what is happening here? It was kind of an Avengers moment before Avengers
or
was
seeing
even
Bruce Willis
thing.
At the end of Split.
Right, yeah.
That bald man you recognize is back.
Yeah. It was just an interesting thing to have him show up there. But good stuff. I liked that scene.
I really did enjoy my time with these movies. I'm excited to watch the next 3 over next month. Talk about those, because I think that is where, from what I've heard, like, I think 4 brings everybody back together, and like 5 is when it like truly hits the nos and
takes
like goes
off,
for broke and gets really wild.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, that is about all I have to say on the first 3 Fast and the Furious movies. So I am working on pulling up bingo here.
Bingo.
Let me see if I can put this on screen. There we go. This is our bingo sheets right here, right now. No treasure map, no ancient evil, no awkward hand touch, no fake fast food or diary entry.
Real.
Crashing a fancy party? No.
Can
Mom in
I
an
get
apron?
training
No.
montage?
Yes. You can absolutely get training montage. Dealing with a pet? No. Death by electrocution? No.
There's
Character's just bad
snacking
at cooking.
in these movies. Roman does some snacking. Han does some snacking, but I don't know if it's consistent enough as to one type of food for me to cross off signature snack.
Yeah, I don't think they had a signature snack.
Not yet.
Though I think eventually we can mark it down just for Corona. I feel like that.
That's true. That's true.
You kind of have to.
Can I go and get that now? Because we know the Coronas are impending.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. Let's see. Literally hiding in the closet. Nope. Didn't realize your own strength. Nope. Contemporary reference to retro tech. No. No hot dogs either. I don't know if I got anything in this one.
I was able to do training montage and signature snack. Needle drop of the time period, I don't exactly when I see needle drop of the time period, I mean like somebody today is making a movie set in like 1999 and then they play like Blur's Song 2 or something. Like it can't just be like a movie of the year putting a song of the year in it.
Yeah.
Like the song can't be contemporary to the actual making of the film. I have stuck with a kid, but we've always considered that as like an adult who's like, great, now I got this kid tagging along after me, like real Wolverine style. Sean's dad in the third movie is now stuck with him, but it's not from his point of view. It's really from Sean's point of view. It's more like stuck with a dad. So I don't know if this is exactly on point enough for me to get this.
It's one of those weird movies where Sean is technically in well, no, I think because at the start he's in college, right?
No, he's in high school. Like I think he's still 17.
That's what I was about to say, but then I was like, but like the way they're depicting it is almost college like, but you're right. They're in high school. And it's just weird because none of the actors look like they're in high school. Anyways, I don't think I got anything. Wild. There is I did notice that if we hadn't marked it down already from John Wick, there is a you're not so different, or we're not so different.
Oh yeah,
that's the third one there.
Definitely.
Yeah. But there you go. I guess that is our bingo update. Not much for the Fast and the Furious.
We'll get there.
Melissa, let's do recommendations. We like to do these on the first time we cover something here for our end of the month specials, as well as the last time. So based on these first three, what else might you recommend to people?
We've already mentioned a bunch of stuff. Just looking back at our own review show history, watch the Wachowski Speed Racer. Yep. You know, even more like big stylistic, bombastic action movies. Like we've talked about Mission Impossible, James Bond, John Wick recently, Matrix, like lots of stuff like that. And for stuff we haven't covered before, there is Point Break, of course. Point Break, it's about surfing. I don't think they do a surf chase scene, but there is a foot race in that movie. Like it's just Keanu Reeves running after Patrick Swayze. And that's one of the most thrilling foot chases I've ever seen on film. It's really well executed.
They play football in that movie. They they jump out of the helicopter.
Yeah, skydiving.
Too. Yeah.
Lots of activity. Yeah. Very extreme. I would recommend Drive. The Ryan Gosling picture Drive.
Yep.
Where he plays a Hollywood stunt driver, which you don't really see that aspect of his life very much. But at night he is like a getaway driver. Like you can hire him for various heists and crimes, etc. And then he sort of gets in over his head. He's got like a neighbor he's falling for. And she's got like a husband who's just been released from jail who's kind of trouble. And he's like trying to help that situation. Albert Brooks is in it. I saw this movie once. I remember it on vibes only. I'm realizing now as I talk about it, I can't tell you what the plot was besides he fights Albert Brooks.
Yep. There you go.
An excellent vibes movie. This is this is like an outrun classic, as few outrun classics as there are.
Yeah. Absolutely. On top of that, I would also add The Italian Job, a heist movie centering around cars. Right? At least one like major scene in that they all use those Mini Coopers to do all of that stuff. I'm only familiar with the more recent one, the remake that stars Most Def. I haven't seen the original one, but I've heard good things from what I understand.
It's fun. Check it out. Michael Caine.
Yeah, and then I would also like to add in Redline, which is an anime movie, hyper stylized. Just the artwork in that alone is incredible. And it is a movie about a race, this like death race thing that is happening there. And then of course, Initial D. Yeah, the scenes in Tokyo drift on the mountain as they're all drifting there at night. Even that last race there, that is Initial D. Like that is what it is. And yeah, it's neat. I love that one a lot. So go check that one out too. But that's it, I think, for recommendations for now. We already have what we will be up to next week picked out. We did those pitches last week. So for this next week, Melissa, you and I are going to be reading some Red Sonja comics. Some Red Sonja. I always mix up the name. I want to say Sonja, but I think it's just Sonia.
I think Sonia.
I'll go like look up interviews or something and see what people say. Who knows? So I'll know for next week. But Red Sonja comics written by Gail Simone. These are available on Comixology Unlimited. They have a nice like collection of all 18 issues that are in that. It's been my goal on the podcast this year to get more sword and sorcery style stuff on the show, because it's a genre we haven't really looked into much here on the show. So starting off with Red Sonja by written by Gail Simone. I've heard nothing but good things, so I'm excited about this one. But that's what we will be up to this next week. I guess that's kind of about it.
Yeah. And then on February 26th, that's when you and I are going to record our episode about Fast & Furious, Fast 5 and Furious 6, whatever the next three are, 4 through 6. I forgot their exact titles.
I think you're right. Yeah. So be on the lookout for
all of that. Or is it Fast and Furious 6 and Furious 7?
It's Furious 7.
Okay.
I think. Shows how much we know. We'll learn because we're watching them for the first time.
Adding and dropping the. Sometimes they spell out and. Sometimes it's an ampersand. I don't know.
Eventually, we're gonna get one that is the Fast and Furious, and one is Fast and the Furious. Right? It's all gonna be mixed up in there. Who knows? Anyways, I think that is about it for this podcast. So, Melissa, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at WilkyWit. That's WILKYWIT. And listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities, show where me and my brother Jams talk about weird old kids shows you feel like only you remember.
There you go. Good stuff. You guys can find me at Yo Kyle Springer. And if you would like to stay up to date with all of the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts, of course, we are at the Whatnauts. So please go like, share, and subscribe. That would help us out a ton. You guys know the deal with all of that. If you're watching the YouTube version, go check out one of our other videos right over there on that side of the screen over there. That would help us out a ton. And this has been number 239 of the Whatnauts review show. We're getting up there. It's a lot of numbers. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.